problems. Outside of that, I'm a concerned parent that happens to be a library manager. And I'm a graduate student at the University of South Carolina, pursuing my MLIS as well. Whoop, whoop, go Gamecocks. And one thing that I do every year, I've been at the library, next year will be for 10 years. And every year what I do is I look up the school report cards. And when I look up those school report cards, I try to stop myself from crying from looking at these school report cards, because we're dealing with a literacy crisis. And particularly, I look at them, the neighborhoods that I tend to serve are predominantly African American. So that's close to my heart. And it's heartbreaking that this is not as much in the forefront as a bunch of the nonsense that we see on the news and things like that every day. So I got tired of just wishing that people would talk about it and be the one that will talk about it and try to develop some kind of solutions for this problem. So according to DoSomething.org, the fourth grade year is called a watershed year. And what that means is that it is predicted that if a child is not reading proficiently by the fourth grade, he or she will have an approximately 78% chance of never catching up. And that's scary to me. And this is an issue that affects everybody. There are some racial groups and things like that that's doing better than others. But rest assured that nobody is really faring well in this situation here. So I want y'all to look at these right here, and I want y'all to say these years and everything here with me. We need to talk about literacy among black children. What year did that come out in? 2021, right? This is in Baltimore. 77% tested Baltimore High School read at an elementary school and some at a kindergarten level. What year is that? Literacy crisis in the U.S. is deeply concerning and totally preventable. That's 2024. And this one actually just came out. Elite college students who can't read books. That just came out, y'all. This is maybe about a month old article. And that one actually bothered me the most, because when I was thinking about that one, I was at a doctor's appointment for my children. And you know, if anybody goes to the doctor, they give you this huge packet to always fill out. And what this article was saying is that these children don't have like the attention span, more or less, to finish a full book, because in high school, they only read excerpts of books. So when they go to college and they have to read a whole novel within a week or 2 weeks, it's something that they really can't grasp or really can't understand or just can't really do. So when I'm sitting here filling out this paperwork at the doctor's office, it can be kind of cumbersome. You know, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and it's breaking down, the developmental stages, where they at, where they should be, and so on and so forth. And if I didn't have the capacity to read all of this, what would stop me from not just skipping over some of these important things and just finding relief at where it says sign here? Missing important information could be signing my life away, could be signing my children to be test subjects for all I know, but I just want to get through this whole reading thing because I don't have the attention span to do so. That's scary to me. This is the 2022 proficiency rates among racial groups of fourth grade in South Carolina. Like I said, some racial groups are doing better than others in the proficiency, but nobody's really faring well. But look at the African American community in particular, is at 15% that are reading at a proficient level. And COVID tends to get a lot of the slack or a lot of the blame of why this is the case. But let me show you something. This is the reading proficiency rates for fourth graders since 1992. And according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, there has been no year that African American fourth graders had more than 20% proficiency in reading, nor 8th grade, nor 12th grade. At no point since these numbers have been tracked has the proficiency rate of African Americans in the 4th, 8th, and 12th grade reached 20%. But what does this have to do with librarians? This is why y'all here, right? Well, let's see here. Looking at the information that we provided, the theme that we have this year is Together for Tomorrow. What does tomorrow look like for these children? In a world of increasing automation, what job prospects are going to be for these children? I didn't put the one of the slides talked about it briefly, but there's a direct correlation between the literacy rates or lack thereof and prison rates, teen pregnancy rates, violence, so on and so forth. Having a grasp of foundational literacy is the common thread for all of these. Because literacy is not only the ability to be able to read and write, but it's also the ability to think critically. It's also the ability to be able to express your feelings and your thoughts. So what might have happened is, like, one of the reasons why violence might be so crazy right now is I didn't have the vocabulary to say, hey, brother, you hurt my feelings. And those emotions are running wild, so I just decided to hit you because I didn't have the capability to actually say, hey, man, you need to apologize for this. Literacy is at the foundation of all of this. And so what can we do about this? I developed a concept called L.A.S.E.R, when that means Librarians as Supplementary Educational Resources. So imagine, if you will, another partner in our community's educational endeavors. One that is close to the school system, but is not necessarily bound by it. Because there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape within the school systems, and a lot of teachers would like to do certain things for their students, but they have to jump through so many different hoops and loops, and might have non-cooperative administrators or whatever the case is that stops them from doing the things that they know that's the best for their students. Luckily, I'm not bound by that same system. And I have a library system that tends to support a lot of the things that we're doing here. So the idea is to create the public library space as a third space of education outside of the home and school. So we can be a teammate to the teachers, a teammate to the administrators, a teammate to the parents or caregivers or whomever the case is. The key word here is supplementary, because I ain't taking no place of no teacher. I'm not taking the place of no reading interventionist or reading coach or anything like that. It's supplementary. So these are, and I want to give a historical context here. James C. Wilborn, in the classic anthology of the Black Librarian in America Revisited, in his essay, Achieving Black Economic Self-Reliance, speaks on an initiative called Urban Information Specialist Project, or UISP. And the UISP was created in 1970, and it endorsed the concept that the urban public library should be dedicated to the principles of helping people help themselves. And it challenged the roles of public libraries and public librarians to be active agents of community improvement. So part of this concept of L.A.S.E.R is expanding what the public librarian actually is, what it is that we can do, and how we can intervene on certain things. Because again, I'm a current student at USC, and one of the things that bothered me is that I don't see many articles written about public librarians. They might talk about public libraries and the technological advances and innovations and things that we're doing as an institution, the public library as an institution. But there's not really much things written about the public librarian and where we play a part in facilitating educational resources for these students. And when we do speak about literacy, it's typically media literacy, technology literacy, information literacy. But all of these literacies have a foundation, and that foundation is foundational literacy. There's no other literacy that you can do if you can't read. So that's where we have to start at first and find the means of intervening. And like the first keynote speaker a couple of days ago, his name escapes me, but I know it's a hard ask because we are already doing a lot of things as public librarians. I manage my branch, and I do a lot of outreach. I try to juggle as many things as possible, but you kind of have to take this issue personally, and because this offends me. You know what I'm saying? And I can't take my space as a man in the community that says that he loves his community and sit and allow numbers like this to ride. So these are some of the work that we have done so far. I'm proud to say that we've laid the foundation of a collaboration between public libraries and public schools. Last year, I developed a partnership with one of our local elementary schools called Horror Hill Elementary. And it initially started as me just volunteering. I volunteered for this class, Miss Ogawa's class, about 30 students, of the trouble students and all of that good stuff. And I saw the problem right there. And I was like, man, it just seems like, some of these children should be farther along. Side note, my son just turned 4. When he was 2 years old, and my son is a preemie. When my son was 2 years old, and he was getting like reading coaches and things like that, the lady said, man, he's on the level of a lot of kindergartnners. Now as a father, I was kind of proud. I said, yeah, that's my boy, damn right. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, your father is a librarian, you know what I mean? So we story time all the time and read. But that also concerned me. I said, why is my 2-year-old preemie child that's supposed to be behind developmentally and all of that good stuff on or exceeding some of these kindergartners? And we saw the news thing that some of these children that's graduating high school are reading on an elementary or kindergarten level. So you mean to tell me that my 2-year-old that's surpassing some kindergartners could be, by extension, reading and speaking better than some high school seniors? Proud father. Bigger picture though, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And the fact that this is not on, again, we're voting next week or later on this week right here, and no candidate is talking about the literacy crisis in our nation like that, and that is appalling to me. So again, I made this connection, and what we ended up doing was we started a reading skills club at my branch. And with what we did was we connected our education studio that we have at the main branch and brought them out to my rural location. And my location was the only location that had 2 sessions. It was 2-week-long boot camp type sessions for this reading intervention program. And this was some of the feedback that we got here. The question was, has the reading club impacted your child's reading and confidence? Yes, she feels more confident with blended sounds. Yes, she wakes up ready to come and learn, and although she was sad that it ended on Friday, she feels good about she feels good about reading now. He is more confident with reading and activities. He is excited to share his daily experiences and now teach us. Yes, she wakes up early, ready to come and learn. Oh, I just read that one. And then someone said somewhat. I'm being honest here. I want to give the full scope. Another question was, has the reading club had an impact on your child's reading confidence? One person said unsure. One person said absolutely. The name was redacted. The child said, I can almost read now. Yes, he's more eager to get books from the library and read. He is much more interested in reading. This week, he has less resistance to reading at home. Being able to read full sentences in the take-home work has boosted her confidence. The reading club has increased my child's reading confidence, again, somewhat. What did your child like about the Reading Skills Club? The art, love the teachers, the crafts, the smaller group settings, that's a big one. The intentiveness of the facilitators, the activities, the classroom setting, the student to teacher ratio, that's another big one. And the arts and things like that. Crafts, activities, the arts, the toys, you like the teachers, the reading and other activities, making new friends, feeling included, love the teachers. Have you noticed a pattern? It's the crafts, the activities, the making new friends and feeling included. With this valuable feedback, we can see now how public librarians can be a supplementary resource to what we have gotten here. Furthermore, as a sidebar, I'm only talking about literacy because that's what I'm most passionate about. But them math and science numbers are even worse. But I have a theory. It's not necessarily that these children are bad at math and science. But again, literacy is the foundation of everything. They could just very well be intimidated by the vocabulary that math holds. They could be intimidated by the vocabulary that science has. Man, I can barely say some of the things of chemistry. You know, I know deoxyribonucleic acid, but some of these other things, I'll be like, all right, let me break down the syllables and try to understand this thing here. So Pythagorean theorem, parabola, algebra. So it might not necessarily be that these children are bad at math and science, but each of these other disciplines, wherever these children might decide to go, they all have a vocabulary that has to be understood and it has to be able to be articulated. And if they do not have the skills to be able to do that, that in turn is going to have an impact on their confidence. And then when it's an impact on their confidence, they're going to shy away from it. So again, with this valuable feedback that we got from the first time that we did this here, we can see how public librarians can be a supplementary resource. And one of the things that we can do, this right here is called decodable readers. We have quite a few of those at our branch now. And what this tool does is help the young scholar's ability to connect sounds to letters and to read unfamiliar words. It also has comprehension questions because that's another issue. It will help with the retention that the student has on what was just read. Because currently they might put their eyes on the words, but they're not retaining anything that they're reading. To me, things called like the summer slide should not exist, because if you actually learned it, you shouldn't slide back, especially to the degree that's happening. It's like the 3 months or however long summer is, these kids almost slide back to as if they haven't learned it at all because they didn't learn it in the first place. So we have to go back to the foundational aspects of it and break it down straight from the beginning, destroying rebuild almost. Maybe not even almost. It's almost, this is a crisis that we're dealing with. But when I was researching this, I came across another thing that was interesting. We know about illiteracy, but there was also a concept called alliteracy. In 1978, Larry Mikulecki presented another problem, which is called alliteracy, and that is you have the ability to read, but you choose not to. Now, within the context of African American students, there's this concept called acting white. That's a branch of alliteracy. Because I used to get picked on all the time, man, you talk white, because I'm able to articulate myself, because I try my best to master the English language. I love reading. I'm a super nerd. That's going to be the shirt I make, super nerd, dun, 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 dun. You know what I'm saying? I love reading. But the image that most African American children, especially males, get of themselves is not of the scholar. It's not of someone who loves reading and learning. You know, and it wasn't always like that. I remember, you know, I was born in the 1900s, you know, late 1900s and all that. And there used to be a show, because there's a show now called Young Sheldon. Y'all know about Young Sheldon? You know, from the Big Bang Theory, you know, and they you know, went to him in childhood. Before there was Young Sheldon, there used to be a show called Smart Guy. Do anybody remember Smart Guy? It was basically like Young Sheldon, but it was a young black kid that was raised by a single father. And he was a genius that went to his older brother's high school. And basically everything that Young Sheldon was, there was a black version of it called Smart Guy back in the day. Right? And I sat back around, like, yeah, I do remember that. But at the same time, there was also images like on Family Matters, Steve Urkel. Steve Urkel was always the one that's being played by Laura. He could never get no love from Laura, even though he's a super smart dude and all that. And he couldn't get any kind of attention or love or respect from his peers until he took a concoction and turned into Stefan. That was the suave, cool guy that didn't wear glasses and didn't have the suspenders all the way up and things like that. These are seeds of imagery that's being planted within our children's psyche about what to embrace and what not to embrace. I love hip hop. I'm a hip hop dude. My favorite rapper, his name is KRS-One. And KRS-One's name means knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. He's a philosopher. He's the one that introduced me to a lot of books through his music, a lot of philosophies through his music. And there was a shift that happened in hip hop where the conscious and the knowledge of hip hop is no longer what's being promoted. Now, if you turn on the radio, it's the same 7 songs, and most of those songs are just dealing with sex and violence. And there's a saying in an Indian scripture called the Bhagavad Gita that says, whatever standard a great man sets, ordinary men will follow. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what are the images that our children are seeing as great? Is it the scholar or is it the gangster? Is it the one that's loving school and that can fill these STEM roles and things like that? Or is it something else? Other resources that you can check out, it's on YouTube. The guy's name is Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. It's called Be Smart or Be Cool. This was back in the 1980s that they was talking about this. And it was a crisis back then that we would rather be seen as cool than being seen as smart. But that's not even what I'm talking about here. That's just side notes. But we're living in an age of information overload, unprecedented time, and this information overload, is strong enough to influence adults. It's strong enough to influence adults. So how much more is it going to influence children's brains who have not even fully developed yet? So in the process of being developed, this information overload is happening. This image that's being shown to us is happening as our brain is developing. So as these connections in our brain is solidifying around 25 or whatever the age is, it often changes. What's going to be the seeds that were planted back when you was 10, 15, and so on and so forth? So by the time you're 25 and your brain is finished developing, what has it been fed to say to itself about itself? And how is that going to relate to the capabilities that child might feel that they have when it comes to things of academics? Because there's no problem in sports. Confidence is way high up here. Oh yeah, we Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Curry, and all that all day. But you might be able to name Neil deGrasse Tyson. Maybe, but that's again. So there's a war for attention that's going on. And we as public librarians need to suit up and boot up as well and understand that we need to intervene as soon as possible because we are at constant competition with influences outside of this. And all that to say is never underestimate your influence. This is a picture of me at the Augusta Baker Baker's Dozen that I go to every year. This is the class that I volunteer at Horrell Hill. Every time I walk through that class, these kids bum rush me at the door and giving me hugs, just like this. You know, my last name is Fleming, so when they see me out in the streets, they're like, Mr. Flamingo! I haven't heard that all my life, but you know, it's all good. You know, and you know, we have our banter and we have a cultural similarity, so I know how to push back on them and a little bit like that, and they know it's coming from love because they, you know, one of the students was like, yo, why did you choose this class? I said, why not? I said, I go where the cool kids are. You know what I mean? And you can see that confidence build into them. These kids are very intelligent and very keen to who really does care and who doesn't care. So if you're in the position that you can show these children that you do care, please do it. Never underestimate your influence. And this is when Hopkins Elementary or Middle, I forgot which one, but one of those, they came and I showed them our microscope. I think that was a wing of some kind of bug there. So the profiles, based off of what we discussed so far, does this sound like you? Certain things to consider is that you have to have a deep connection with and a deep sense of community. You have to be concerned with this literacy problem and take it personally. I know my profiles are black characters here. I just thought it was cool, and I never seen that many. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna use all of that, and I have the free trial on Canva, and I was like, I'm gonna use as many graphics as I can as possible before I cancel it. I need to cancel it after this before they charge me. I'm just keeping it real. But you have to be able to go that extra mile. I go to PTA meetings. I'm a part of Horrell Hill School Improvement Council. I was a part of their, I forgot what number was their Title I, I believe, meeting where we speak about how they're going to allocate funds because that's an impoverished neighborhood. I was brought in when they opened up their parent resource room as a community leader and things like that. So I developed a partnership with that particular Principal Sharon Adams. So she knows how we both started our positions around the same time. And I knock on doors and I send emails, but emails can be easily ignored. So I pull up. I'm a pull-upper. How you doing? Yeah, I sent you an email the other day. Yeah, I do all of that. I'm a part of the School Improvement Council of Lower Richland High School. I have touched almost every school in our area except Southeast Middle, and there's 6 schools around me. And I've spoken at Hopkins Middle for Black History Month. I've been at Hopkins Elementary. We've done field trips and so on and so forth. These are the things, because I'm that passionate about it. And it doesn't, your thing might be STEM or math or whatever. It's the same concepts. It's still, you're still a librarian as a supplementary educational resource. Do whatever it is that you love. However you feel that you can reach these students, do that through whatever your love is. Because don't mimic me, because your passion might not be literacy. It might be performing arts. It might be spoken word. I'm a spoken word poet as well. You know, whatever, whomever, whatever. What your natural proclivity is, and you feel that you have the confidence to share it with these students, just know that they're worthy of it and do it. And word to Miss Frizzle, you get messy, make mistakes, it's all good. Because these kids respond to the effort. So James C. Wilborn, who I talked about earlier, these are some other things that he added on to it. He said, you need to know the institutional, technical assistance, and financial resources routinely available to aid the solution of local problems. You need to know where to find organizations offering social service and counseling and advice. You need to know when meetings and other public forums impacting upon the general welfare of the neighborhood are scheduled to be held. Basically, you have to be rooted in this community. The community has to be able to trust you. They have to be able to know you. And they have to be like, the people who I come in contact with, they know Mr. Chris the librarian. They either know me by my hat or whatever the case is. I mean, I see them in the streets all the time. I talk to parents all the time. Let me know what your concerns are, because if you don't feel that your principal is listening to you, you talk to me and I'll talk to that principal at the next SIC meeting, at the next PTA meeting, or the next meeting that I just pull up impromptu on and like, yo, you got to listen to this. Because they might feel intimidated by the principal or the school administrators, but we have that connection. Use those connections to your advantage. And these are some future endeavors that we plan on working on. The library to college pipeline. When we normally talk about pipelines, we always talk about school to prison. Oh, well, hell, if that pipeline could work, how come pipelines to college can't work? So I believe that if we have a pipeline from the public schools to these colleges, we can meet right here in the middle at the public library. I was just taking a class in archives, and they was talking about the lack of representation of African Americans within the archive profession, right? And the reasons that they gave were off. I'll just say off. It's not because they have pictures of white men on the wall. We're not that fragile. But again, what we talked about earlier, we don't see that many images of black archivists. We don't see that many images of black librarians. There was my brother and I was at a presentation yesterday. Black male librarians make up 0.06 of this profession. So we're most of them right here. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really see the images. The women and things like that, they fare a little bit better, 7% overall, but even those are far and in between. So like when we see each other, we're like, yo, what's good, dude? You know what I mean? It's like a family reunion every time we see one another. But consider this. The pool that the academic librarians have, especially in LIS, is already filtered. So those black kids that would gravitate towards that, they're already there, and it's already, again, 7% or so on and so forth. But the public library, we have access to the pool that they don't have. They have the pool of those that most of them were already on the college track. I have the pool of people who don't even know yet that they are college material. So let's say Benedict or Allen or USC or whomever, their libraries, they have an African American exhibit of whatever stuff that they have in their libraries. Hey, yo, how about you come over to Lower Richland Library, utilize our large meeting space. I'll set up a field trip of Lower Richland High School or Hopkins Middle or Hopkins Elementary or Horrell Hill Elementary or Southeast or Gadsden Elementary, and y'all can meet here at my library, and then you can show the legacy that we do have in these spaces. These children can then be exposed to it. They get to go to a public library that they might not have gone to before. They get to learn things that they might not have learned before, and they are able to see more possibilities that they have at their disposal. Simply because public librarians and academic librarians decided to work together. And these are things that we're already working on. And I hope, have some expediency, with it as well. A lot of people talk, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. But all you need is one yes. All you need is one yes. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And again, the work that does happen, it tends to happen at the main branch downtown, because that's where everything is. I said, but don't forget about my country babies. My country babies got dreams too. You know what I'm saying? Like they need to be exposed to things like that. Just drive an extra 20 miles this way. And there's another branch that's 15 minutes away from us in Eastover that needs that same amount of love. So we just need to make that effort to get what we already do have and connect it with those that actually need it. That's what we are as librarians, right? That's what I thought too. So we also got to remember that change exists in networks. I have a saying that teamwork makes the dream work, and solving this literacy crisis is no different. I would love to say that this change is going to be wide and sweeping, but it's going to be incremental, to be realistic with you. And everybody has a part to play in it. We spoke about the public libraries, we spoke about the public schools, but the community has to understand too that the burden of teaching your child is not solely on the teacher. It's not solely on them out there, and you can be safe in your bubble so you can blame these people out here why whatever is going on. We have to reestablish the village that raises the child. We have to redo that because, yeah, I live in a rural community, but the church might have a van that can sit 20 people to get them to come to my branch. Or this person here might have something, and this person here might have something. We all have pieces. Like when I met all these community leaders, I said, man, we're all shooting shots individually, but if we all just come together like Voltron, we can make something happen. The politicians, we have to remind them that they are public servants. We don't serve you, you serve us. And for that to happen, the community has to be literate in their own self to understand their own position and understand the power that they wield. If you want this seat the next voting cycle, we got to talk about this literacy problem. Point blank, period. This is what we're coming up as a community. This is our demands. Boom, 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 boom. If not, I bet you won't be sitting in that seat no more. Be able to fund, because a lot of times money talks, be able to fund these people and things like that. It's going to take the community aspect to come together to work these things out, to bring sustainable change for our children, because all of our children are worthy of it. And I thank you all for your time and in your attention, and I'll leave the last few minutes for any kind of questions, answers, and critiques.